In the previous video, we covered several ways to get data from arrays without altering the original array. There are times when you might want to fetch data and also remove it from the array. If you want to get the last item of an array, you can make use of the length property. The last element's index is always one less than the array length because indices start with 0. It is also possible to use the at method with -1. If you want to get this last item and also remove it from the array, this can be done with the pop method. This code assigns the value of blue to last color, and it also removes blue from the colors array. To get the value of the first element and also remove it from the array, use the shift method. This code assigns the value of red to first color and also removes red from the colors array. To get a contiguous subset of array items and also remove them from the original array, use the splice method. The first argument passed to splice is the index of the first element to get. The second argument is the number of items. In this example, we start on index 3, which is the location of 30, and we take 4 items. The splice method can also be used to substitute values. This code removes 2 items starting at index 3, and it inserts the values 100 and 200 at the location where that removal happened. The third and all subsequent arguments passed to splice become values that are inserted. Note that the number of items removed does not have to be equal to the number of items added. In this example, 6 items were removed, but only 2 are inserted. The earlier example in which only 2 parameters were passed is a special case of inserting 0 new items. Using the splice method alters the original array, but there are situations in which you want to have a spliced version while keeping the original unchanged. There is a new toSpliced method that does this. Note that the value returned by toSplice is totally different from the value returned by splice. The value returned by splice is an array containing the items that were removed. The value returned by toSplice is an array containing a copy of the original array with the alterations caused by splicing. If you want to reverse the order of the elements of an array, you can use the reverse method. This modifies the original array, which is not always what you want. You could either copy the array first and use the reverse method on the copy, or you can use the new toReversed method. This code makes a copy by using the spread operator, and the reverse method is applied to the copy. The original array remains unchanged. Using toReversed achieves the same result. If you want to sort an array, you can use the sort method. This also appears to work with numbers. However, it does not work properly with all numbers unless you tell it how to do the sorting. If I change the 5 to 15, notice that it comes between 1 and 2 in the sort order. That is because the default behavior is to sort everything as if it was text. The character 1 comes before the character 2, so 15 comes before 2 because its first character is 1. This can be fixed by providing a function that specifies how to compare elements in the array. This code can be simplified, but I'm showing you the more verbose version to first explain the values that the function has to return. It should return a negative number if the first item is less than the second. It should return a positive number if the first item is greater than the second. It should return 0 if the 2 items have equal value. The negative value does not have to be -1. It can be any negative number. The positive number also does not have to be +1. It can be any positive number. Because of this, we can simplify the function to a single statement. Subtracting b from a always results in a negative number if a is less than b. It always results in 0 if they are equal, and it always results in a positive number if a is greater than b. This can be further shortened by using an arrow function, which is how most comparer functions are written. Because we can specify how to do the comparisons, it is possible to compare by any criteria that we want. This function uses the length property of strings to compare which word is longer or shorter. The result is the array is sorted by word length instead of alphabetical order. One of the less obvious features of the sort method is you can use it to shuffle the contents of an array, which could be useful for something like simulating a lottery drawing or the shuffling of playing cards. This is accomplished by changing the comparer function to randomly return a negative or positive number regardless of the inputs. This function uses math.random to generate a random number, which is always between 0 and 1. half the time it will be greater than 0.5 and half the time it will be less than 0.5. The sort method changes the original array and has a new counterpart that doesn't. There is a toSorted method which works the same as the sort method, except that it returns a new sorted array without modifying the original. You can also copy the array and sort the copy if you want to keep the original array unchanged, but using toSorted is simpler. We have discussed how to access the values of an array element at a specified index, but it is possible to also do the opposite. It is possible to find the index of an element that has a specific value. This code outputs 3 because cherry is at the 4th position and the indices start with 0. Using this technique on a value that doesn't exist in the array returns -1. If you only wanted to know if the item is in the array but you don't care about the position, you could use indexOf and check for a value of -1, but there is a more efficient way using the includes method. This code outputs false because mango is not in the array. Using the same technique with cherry outputs true because cherry is in the array. An important thing to be aware of about using indexOf is that it finds only the first index of an element that has the specified value. If the same value appears multiple times in the array, the other occurrences will not affect the value returned. In this example, cherry appears at both index 3 and index 6, but the output is 3 because that is the position of the first occurrence. If you want to search starting from the end, use the lastIndexOf method. This outputs 6 because that is the last index of an element containing the specified value of cherry. Locating the index of a specific value can sometimes be useful, but it is generally more useful to find the index of an item that meets specific criteria without knowing what the exact value actually is. This code locates the first number that is higher than 100. The 300 is located in the 4th position, which has an index of 3. Similar to indexOf, the search ends after finding the first match. The 210 is also over 100, but it has no effect on the outcome because it isn't the first number over 100. Use findLastIndex if you want to find the last index of an element that matches the specified criteria. This code outputs 5, which is the 6th position. The 210 is in the 6th position, and it is the last number higher than 100 in the array. It is possible to access a value once you have the index by using bracket notation or the method, but we can skip the extra step by using the find and findLast array methods. This code outputs 300, which is the actual value of the first number over 100 in the array. When using findLast, we get 210, which is the actual value of the last number over 100 in the array. If you don't care about the location or the actual value, but you want to know if the array contains any element that meets certain criteria, use the sum method. This is similar to the includes method, but lets you specify a condition instead of a specific value. If you want to determine if every element in the entire array meets certain criteria, use the every method. This code outputs true because every number is less than 500. If I change the condition to check for being less than 200, the code outputs false because 300 and 210 are not less than 200. There is still more to the topic of arrays. In the next video, we will cover the array methods that are the most confusing to beginners.